I'm Dr. Starsiak, and in this video I'm going to talk about something that is rarely touched on in the Western world, and that is fat-soluble detoxification. This is a mainstay of Ayurveda, but in the Western world we really only talk and focus on water-soluble detoxification. We talk about drinking a lot of water, we talk about flushing out the kidneys, and well, that's going to help with getting rid of things that are purified through the kidneys. But there are other things that are fat-soluble, that can't be made water-soluble, and they're excreted in our bile. And a lot of those things get reabsorbed, just like we've reabsorbed the majority of our cholesterol. We'll reabsorb a lot of those fat-soluble toxins that we try to excrete. So Ayurveda, this ancient system of medicine that comes out of India, Ayu means life, Veda means wisdom, so the wisdom of life. In their core rejuvenation practice called Panchakarma, Pancha 5, karma actions, so it's a series of 5 actions. Most of us nowadays don't need the first 2 actions, but all of us can benefit from the last 3 actions. And the first phase of those last 3 actions is called snepana, or oilation. And in this practice, a patient is giving particularly chosen medicated oils, usually ghee or it can be sesame oil, and it's infused with different herbs. And these herbs are chosen to target particular organ systems to help detoxify them, and in some cases to help nourish them. But certain herbs will localize more to certain organ systems and can help to remove these metabolic byproducts that have become lodged in the organs. One manifestation of this is arterial plaques, atherosclerosis that leads to occlusion, heart attacks. Another one are the tangles in the brain, the amyloid plaques, or the tau protein tangles that are associated with dementia. So Ayurveda has known about these accumulations of metabolic byproduct for thousands of years. They call this and they have a very intelligent system of getting rid of it. So one takes these medicated oils first and last thing in the morning and before bed for ideally a couple weeks until it gets to the point where they're drinking like half a cup of oil every day. And I did this between college and medical school. I went to India and went through Panchakarma. So I experienced this firsthand. Now, one of the results of that, of course the medicines are beginning to mobilize these fat-soluble toxins, but also at the same time, we're developing more and more bile. So the gallbladder is just being conditioned, the liver is being conditioned to fill the gallbladder with more and more bile. And once we have achieved the goal of oilation, which we're fully oiled up when very light activity is fatiguing. So at that point, we enter the next phase, which is purgation. So purgation uses generally a senna-based laxative to completely empty the digestive tract in one day. So it'd be normal to go to the bathroom like 25 times that day. When I did it, I think that's about where I was. And by the end, you drink water and it comes out clear. Prior to it being clear, you drink water, in 15 minutes it comes out yellow. So that's the last bit of the bile. First all of the solid stuff is removed, and then the last bit is the gallbladder is just continuing to contract from the senna, and it's clearing out all of its bile, and there's no time for it to be absorbed because of the laxative. So all of the fat-soluble toxins and cholesterol present in that bile are expelled. So with this approach, we'll also see reduction in cholesterol, but a fantastic way to do fat-soluble detoxification. Now, this may ring a bell. There's one thing that's done here in the United States that some people watching this may have done, and they call it a liver cleanse, and it's a drink that's usually some variation on the theme of olive oil, orange juice, Epsom salts. And it's usually just done once, and then they say, oh, see, there are going to be these little things floating in the toilet, these little pebble things, and those are gallstones. I've heard that so many times. Those are not gallstones. Those are just little bits of fat that have been associated with some of the solid stuff that was in your intestines, feces, and they're floating because of the fat. Because you took in so much fat, usually they don't ramp up, so the bile isn't able to absorb as much fat. So you're getting fat that's actually being excreted, because you take the Epsom salt at the same time. So the oil actually just passes through the digestive tract, a good amount of it, and forms these little like pellet looking things with the solid elements of the feces and floats in the surface. So if you want to convince yourself they're not gallstones, you could, it's gross, but you could squish them and they're not going to be hard. Also, if you don't want to have to do that, just recognize they're floating. Gallstones don't float. They sink to the bottom. They're heavy. And you would hear them going tink, 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 tink if you had as many of them as will show up like these little floating pellet things. So that is the lowest level of doing that sort of fat-soluble detoxification, because there's really no preparation and there's no rebalancing afterwards. So in Ayurveda, they have the preparation for the purgation, and then afterwards it's followed by ideally at least a couple weeks, but 3 weeks is best, of a particular balancing therapy. That's very important, because when you do that fat-soluble detoxification purge, you end up opening up a lot of space. And so you need to like soothe the intestines so that they don't become irritated and kind of dried out. And that last phase is called bastis, where it's this alternating medicated water and medicated oil enemas that are done daily. So oil the first day, then water, then oil, then water, every other day, going like that for a maximum of 3 weeks. And that's very balancing. It's very soothing, helps with things like anxiety, stress, headaches, difficulty in digesting, like poor appetite, weak digestion. So Ayurveda is a fantastic approach that fills in a lot of the gaps of our Western system. And we're actually just now catching up to a lot of the things that they knew very well 3,000 years ago in ancient India. One of the biggest examples is the microflora. We're just now beginning to appreciate the role of the microflora, but they described the microflora, their effect, and how to take care of them intelligently over 3,000 years ago. So know about Ayurveda. I got some other videos on here. You can look for those and check those out. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.